My sister told my parents, don't invite her. She's an embarrassment. I said nothing. Just stopped paying for her kids' school, husband's therapy, and their groceries. Now even her pastor is reaching out to me. My name is Denise, and this is about my sister Wendy and the moment she finally pushed me too far. Let me start from the beginning. Wendy is 3 years older than me, married to David, and they have 2 kids, Jake, who's 14, and Lily, who's 11. On paper, they look like the perfect family. Wendy posts constantly on social media about their adventures, their achievements, their happy moments. What she doesn't post about is how I've been quietly bankrolling their life for the past 4 years. It started small. Wendy called me crying one day about how David had lost his job and they were struggling to make ends meet. They couldn't afford Jake's private school tuition, and Wendy was devastated at the thought of pulling him out mid-semester. Being the younger sister who always looked up to Wendy, I offered to help. Just temporary, she said. Just until David found something new. That temporary help turned into paying $2,400 a month for both kids' private school tuition. Then David had what Wendy called a breakdown after being laid off from his marketing position at a mid-sized firm. He couldn't handle the stress of job hunting and providing for his family. She asked if I could help pay for his therapy sessions. Another $800 a month. When their grocery bills became impossible to manage, I started having $300 worth of groceries delivered to their house every week. You might wonder how I could afford all this. I'm a software engineer for a major tech company, and I've been very successful. I live modestly, save aggressively, and yes, I can afford to spend nearly $4,500 a month helping family. But that's not really the point of this story. For 4 years, I did this without complaint. I never brought it up at family dinners. I never made Wendy feel bad about it. When she'd post pictures of the kids' achievements at their expensive private school, or when David would talk about how much therapy was helping him, I felt good knowing I was making a difference in their lives. I genuinely thought we were close. I thought Wendy appreciated what I was doing, even if she couldn't always say it out loud. I was wrong. 2 months ago, our parents decided to throw a big 40th wedding anniversary party. It was going to be a formal affair, rented hall, catered dinner, about 80 guests including extended family, family friends, and people from their church. Mom had been planning it for months, and everyone was excited. I was excited too. I bought a beautiful navy blue dress, got my hair done, and was looking forward to celebrating with everyone. The party was on a Saturday evening, and that morning I was getting ready when my phone rang. It was Mom. Denise, honey, I'm so sorry, but there's been a change of plans about tonight. I was confused. What kind of change? Is everything okay? There was a long pause. Then Mom said, Wendy thinks it might be better if you don't come tonight. I literally dropped my curling iron. What? Why? She says you might not fit in with a crowd tonight. That some of the people coming are David's new work colleagues and she's worried about. Worried about what, Mom? Another pause. She says you can be a little awkward in social situations, and tonight is really important for David's career connections. I was stunned. Mom, are you seriously uninviting me to your own anniversary party because Wendy thinks I'm awkward? It's not that we don't want you there, sweetheart. Wendy just thinks. What exactly did Wendy say, Mom? I want to know her exact words. I could hear Mom sigh. She said, don't invite her. She's an embarrassment. Those words hit me like a physical blow. An embarrassment. My own sister, whose children's education I'd been paying for, whose husband's mental health treatment I'd been funding, whose family I'd been feeding, called me an embarrassment. Mom, I said quietly, did Wendy mention that I've been paying for Jake and Lily's school for the past 4 years? Did she mention that I pay for David's therapy? Did she mention that I buy their groceries every week? Silence. No, Mom finally whispered. She never mentioned any of that. Well, now you know. And since I'm such an embarrassment to the family, I guess I'll just stay home tonight. Thanks for letting me know where I stand. I hung up and sat on my bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I looked fine. I looked normal. I looked like someone who deserved to be at her own parents' anniversary party. But according to Wendy, I was an embarrassment. That's when I made a decision. I didn't call Wendy screaming. I didn't drive over to her house and confront her. I didn't post anything on social media or text her angry messages. I simply opened my laptop and started canceling things. First, I called Westfield Academy, the private school where Jake and Lily went. I explained that I would no longer be covering their tuition payments and that the arrangement would end at the close of the current semester. The registrar was very understanding and said they'd send the billing information to David and Wendy going forward. I arranged to pay the tuition in semester installments, which is how most families handled it anyway. Next, I called Dr. Martinez, David's therapist. I explained that I would no longer be covering the sessions and that David would need to handle payment himself starting immediately. Dr. Martinez seemed surprised but said he discussed payment options with David at their next appointment. Finally, I canceled the weekly grocery delivery service. Just stopped it. No notice, no explanation to Wendy. I figured if I was such an embarrassment, they probably didn't want my embarrassing money either. Then I did something I'd never done before. I went out and spent money on myself. I drove to the mall and bought 3 new outfits. I booked a weekend spa retreat. I made a reservation at the fanciest restaurant in town and took myself out for a solo dinner that cost more than I usually spent on food in a week. If I couldn't celebrate my parents' anniversary, I'd celebrate my newfound freedom from being taken advantage of. The first call came on Monday. It was Wendy. Denise, I just got a call from Jake's school saying there's an issue with tuition payment. They said you're not paying anymore? There must be some mistake. No mistake, I said calmly. I'm not paying anymore. What do you mean you're not paying anymore? You can't just stop without telling us. I can, actually. And I did. Just like you stopped inviting me to family events without telling me why. There was a pause. Denise, about the party. I can explain. I'm sure you can. But I'm not interested in hearing it. You made your feelings about me very clear. I'm just responding accordingly. You can't punish my children because you're mad at me. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply stopping doing something I was never obligated to do in the first place. You'll figure it out. I hung up. The next call came Tuesday morning. David? Denise, Dr. Martinez says you're not covering my sessions anymore. What's going on? You know how important therapy is for me right now. I do know how important it is, I replied. That's why I paid for it for 4 years. But Wendy made it clear that I'm an embarrassment to the family, so I figured you probably don't want my embarrassing money. Wendy said what? Denise, I don't know what happened between you two, but my mental health shouldn't be caught in the middle. You're absolutely right, David. Your mental health is your responsibility. Just like it should have been for the past 4 years. Wednesday brought a call from Mom. Denise, Wendy told me what you did. You can't just cut off support for those children. Why not, Mom? You didn't seem to think cutting me off from family events was a problem. That's different, and you know it. Is it? Wendy made a choice. She decided I was too embarrassing to be around her husband's work friends. I made a choice too. I decided I'm too embarrassed to keep paying for her family's expenses. This is childish, Denise. Maybe. But it's my money and my choice. By Thursday, I was getting texts from Wendy multiple times a day. They started angry, then moved to pleading, then back to angry. I didn't respond to any of them. Friday evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Jake, Wendy's 14-year-old son. I opened the door. Aunt Denise? Can I talk to you? My heart broke a little. Jake was a good kid, and none of this was his fault. Of course, buddy. Come in. Mom says I might have to change schools because you're not helping with tuition anymore. She says you're mad at her about something. I sat down next to him on my couch. Jake, did you know I was paying for your school? He looked surprised. You were? Mom always said Dad's job and some savings covered it. I've been paying your tuition for 4 years, buddy. Yours and Lily's. I also pay for your dad's doctor appointments and buy your groceries every week. Jake's eyes went wide. Seriously? Why didn't anyone tell me? That's a good question. Why don't you ask your mom? Are you really not going to help anymore? I looked at this kid I'd been supporting for years, who had no idea I existed in his financial life until now. Jake, your mom said something very hurtful about me. She told your grandparents not to invite me to their anniversary party because she said I was an embarrassment. Jake looked shocked. She said that? That's really mean, Aunt Denise. You're not embarrassing. Thank you, buddy. But when someone tells you they're embarrassed by you, it makes you not want to help them anymore. That makes sense, Jake said quietly. I'm sorry she said that. It's not your fault, Jake. But I'm not going to keep paying for things while being treated like I don't matter. After Jake left, I felt terrible but also resolved. I wasn't going to let Wendy's treatment of me continue just because there were innocent kids involved. She created this situation, not me. The weekend was quiet, but I wasn't idle. I decided it was time to do some investigating of my own. I'd been so focused on helping Wendy's family that I'd never really looked closely at their actual financial situation. If I was going to be accused of being an embarrassment while funding their lifestyle, I wanted to understand exactly what that lifestyle entailed. I started with social media. Wendy's Facebook and Instagram were public, and as I scrolled through 4 years of posts, a picture emerged that made my stomach turn. There were photos from expensive restaurants I'd never been invited to. Pictures from weekend trips to wine country that I'd apparently been too embarrassing to join. Videos from Jake's expensive lacrosse camp that summer, camp fees I'd indirectly paid for through the grocery money that freed up their budget for extras. Then there was David's LinkedIn profile, where he'd been posting about providing for his family and building a successful future for months. In one post from just 3 weeks ago, he'd written about the importance of financial independence and not relying on others. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. But the real kicker was Wendy's mommy blog. Yes, she had a mommy blog that I'd somehow never known about. It was called Thriving on Purpose and had been running for 3 years, almost as long as I'd been supporting them. As I read through her posts, I found articles titled How We Afford Private School on a Single Income and Budget-Friendly Family Meals That Don't Break the Bank and Teaching Kids Financial Responsibility. In the private school post, Wendy wrote about sacrifices they'd made and creative budgeting strategies that allowed them to prioritize their children's education. She mentioned David's careful financial planning and their disciplined approach to spending. Not once did she mention the $2,400 monthly contribution from her sister. The budget meals post was even worse. Wendy shared photos of the exact groceries I'd been paying for, presenting them as examples of her savvy shopping skills and meal planning expertise. She'd literally photographed my grocery deliveries and turned them into content about her domestic capabilities. The $300 weekly budget I was covering became her strategic spending plan. But the financial responsibility post was what made me screenshot everything. Wendy had written about teaching Jake and Lily the value of hard work and earning their privileges. She talked about how she and David modeled financial accountability and showed their kids that good things come to those who work for them. The entire post was built on a foundation of money I was providing, but she'd constructed a narrative where their success was entirely self-made. I spent Saturday evening reading 3 years' worth of blog posts, each one making me angrier than the last. Wendy hadn't just hidden my financial support, she'd actively built a public persona around the illusion of self-sufficiency that my money had created. She'd been monetizing the lifestyle I was funding for almost the entire time I'd been helping them, building up to blog sponsorships and affiliate links while writing about budgeting tips and financial wisdom she didn't actually possess. The blog had grown to 8,000 followers over 3 years. 8,000 people who believed Wendy was this amazing mother and wife who'd figured out how to live well on a tight budget. The comments were full of praise for her inspiration and requests for her secrets. Some women were asking her to coach them on family finances. I screenshot everything. Every post, every comment, every piece of evidence that showed how Wendy had been exploiting my generosity to build her own brand. I didn't plan to use the screenshots maliciously, but I wanted documentation of just how deep this deception went. Sunday morning, I did something I'd never done before. I created my own social media post. Not on Wendy's accounts, on my own Instagram, which I rarely use but which was connected to various family members and a few mutual friends of Wendy's. I posted a photo of myself from the previous weekend's spa trip and wrote, "Sometimes you discover that the people you've been supporting don't actually want your presence in their lives. It's a hard lesson, but an important one. Grateful for the clarity and excited to invest my energy in people who actually value me. #selfworth, #boundaries, #new chapter." It was subtle, but I knew the people who mattered would understand. Within hours, I had comments from cousins asking if I was okay, from family friends expressing concern, and from a few people who knew Wendy asking what had happened. I didn't respond to any of them directly, but I noticed that several people had stopped following Wendy's blog and social media accounts. That evening, my cousin Lisa called. She was Wendy's age and had always been close to both of us. "Denise, what's going on? Your post yesterday made it sound like something serious happened." I told her everything. The financial support, the anniversary party, Wendy's exact words, and my decision to stop enabling the situation. "Wait," Lisa said, "you've been paying for Jake and Lily's school this whole time?" Wendy told everyone David got a huge promotion that covered the tuition increase. "Nope. That was me." "And you've been buying their groceries?" Wendy's always posting about her meal planning skills and her grocery budgeting tips. "All my groceries. $400 a week, every week, for 4 years. "Holy shit, Denise. Do you know Wendy's been making money off that blog where she gives financial advice?" "I found the blog yesterday. I read all of it." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "This is so much worse than just the party thing. She's been building a career off of lying about your generosity." "I know. Have you confronted her about the blog?" "Not yet. I'm still processing it all." "Denise, you have to understand, Wendy's been presenting herself as this financial guru to our whole extended family. People have been asking her for advice about budgeting and paying for private school. She's been acting like she's got it all figured out. While I was figuring it out for her." "Exactly. And now that you've stopped, what's she going to do? Her whole image is built on a lie." That conversation with Lisa helped me understand that this situation was about much more than being excluded from one party. Wendy had been systematically using my financial support to build a false identity, not just privately within our family, but publicly to thousands of strangers. She turned my generosity into her personal brand. Monday brought a new development. My phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Denise? This is Pastor Williams from Wendy's church. I hope you don't mind me calling, but Wendy asked me to reach out to you." I almost laughed. She got her pastor to call me? That's a new low. "Denise, I understand there's been some kind of misunderstanding between you and Wendy. She's very upset and says her family is in crisis because you've stopped helping them financially." Pastor Williams, did Wendy explain to you why I stopped helping? She mentioned there was some kind of argument about a family party. Did she mention that she told our parents not to invite me because I was an embarrassment? Did she mention that for 4 years I've been paying over $4,000 a month to support her family while she posts on social media pretending they're financially stable? Did she mention that I found out about her real feelings about me when my own mother called to uninvite me from a family celebration? There was a long silence. She didn't provide those details. I'm sure she didn't. Pastor Williams, I'm not a vindictive person. But I'm also not going to continue financially supporting someone who's ashamed of me. If Wendy's family is in crisis, it's because she built their lifestyle on a foundation she was too proud to acknowledge and too cruel to appreciate. Perhaps if you two could sit down and talk. I'm not interested in talking right now. Wendy made her feelings clear. I'm simply responding to them. After I hung up, I realized how far Wendy was willing to go to get my money back without actually apologizing. She'd rather have her pastor call me than admit she was wrong, but Pastor Williams' call had given me an idea. If Wendy was comfortable involving her church community in our family drama, maybe it was time for that community to know the whole truth. I spent Tuesday evening crafting a detailed email. I didn't send it to Wendy or her pastor. Instead, I sent it to 3 people I knew were part of Wendy's inner circle at church. These were women who regularly commented on her blog posts and social media, who had been asking Wendy for financial advice, and who had been praising her wisdom and inspiration for months. The email was factual and calm. I explained my 4 years of financial support, Wendy's blog monetization, and the recent events. I included screenshots of Wendy's blog posts about financial independence alongside copies of my payment confirmations to the school and therapy office, with my account numbers redacted for privacy. I ended by saying I wasn't trying to humiliate Wendy, but I felt her followers deserved to know the truth before taking financial advice from someone whose success was built on undisclosed family support. I sent the email and went to bed, not sure what to expect. Wednesday morning, I woke up to 7 missed calls from Wendy and a string of increasingly frantic text messages. Denise, what did you do? People are asking me about the blog posts and your email. How could you send those screenshots to people at my church? You're trying to destroy my reputation. This is so much worse than anything I did to you. Please call me back, we need to fix this. I didn't call her back immediately. Instead, I checked Wendy's blog and social media accounts. She deleted 3 of the most egregious posts, the ones about private school financing, budget grocery shopping, and teaching kids financial responsibility. Her Instagram story from the previous day about living authentically had also disappeared. More tellingly, her blog's comments section was full of questions she wasn't answering. Wendy, can you clarify your family's financial situation? Is it true your sister has been supporting you? How can you give budgeting advice if you haven't been paying your own expenses? By Wednesday afternoon, Wendy had posted a blog entry titled A Season of Humility and Growth. In it, she acknowledged that she'd been receiving family support and hadn't been fully transparent about their financial situation. She apologized to her readers for any confusion and said she'd be taking a break from giving financial advice while she reassessed her approach to sharing her family's journey. It was a carefully worded non-apology that admitted to deception without taking full responsibility, but it was more accountability than Wendy had ever shown before. That evening, David showed up at my door. He looked awful, stressed, tired, and desperate. Denise, please. I know Wendy said something horrible to you, but I'm begging you to reconsider. I can't afford Dr. Martinez on my own. I'm barely keeping it together as it is. David, you're a grown man with a college degree and a job. After being laid off from your marketing position, you found new work. You should be able to afford your own mental health care. My current job doesn't have great insurance, and we're already stretched thin with the mortgage and car payments and everything else. The pay isn't as good as my old position. Then maybe you need to make some changes. Downsize the house. Sell one of your cars. Move the kids to public school. You know, the things most people do when they can't afford their lifestyle. You don't understand. Wendy has a certain image she needs to maintain. Her friends, her social circle, they all expect a certain level of. He trailed off, realizing what he was saying. A certain level of what, David? Success? The kind of success that I've been funding while being called an embarrassment? David's shoulders sagged. I didn't know she said that about you. That was wrong. But you knew I was paying for everything, didn't you? He nodded miserably. And you were okay with taking my money while I was being excluded from family events? I didn't know about the exclusion part. But you knew about the money. You knew your wife's sister was paying for your children's education and your mental health care and your food, and you never once thought to include me in family decisions or make sure I felt valued? I guess I just got used to it. Wendy handles all the family stuff, and I trusted her judgment. Well, now you know what her judgment of me is worth. After David left, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in weeks, I felt at peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Tuesday brought calls from both my parents. Denise, Dad said, your mother and I have been talking. We had no idea you were supporting Wendy's family. Why would you? Wendy clearly wanted it kept secret. We want you to know that we never agreed with excluding you from the party. Your mother was just trying to keep peace in the family, but we both felt terrible about it. Then why didn't you stand up for me? There was a long pause. We should have. We're sorry. I appreciate that, Dad. But this isn't really about the party anymore. It's about 4 years of being taken for granted while being seen as a burden. Wendy's really struggling right now. She's been crying every day, and the kids are upset about potentially changing schools. That's unfortunate. But those are consequences of her choices, not mine. Couldn't you consider helping just until they get back on their feet? Dad, they've had 4 years to get back on their feet. I was never supposed to be a permanent solution. Wendy made it clear I'm an embarrassment, so I'm removing my embarrassing presence from their financial life. You know that's not what she meant. Actually, Dad, I think that's exactly what she meant. She was fine taking my money as long as she could pretend it didn't exist. The moment my presence became inconvenient, I became an embarrassment. Wednesday evening, Wendy showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't let her in, but curiosity got the better of me. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she'd obviously been crying. Denise, please. I'm here to apologize. Okay. I was wrong about the party. I shouldn't have said you were an embarrassment. I was stressed about David's work situation and I thought. You thought what, Wendy? I thought some of his new colleagues might judge our family if they met you. Judge us how? Wendy fidgeted with her hands. You're very successful, and you're single, and you can be kind of intense when you talk about work, and I worry they might think David wasn't successful enough if they realized his sister-in-law was doing so much better than him financially. The honesty was almost worse than the original insult. So you were embarrassed by my success? I was embarrassed by our failure. By the fact that we needed help from David's younger sister-in-law. I thought if you weren't there, I could keep pretending we were doing fine on our own. Wendy, I never told anyone I was helping you. I never made you feel bad about it. I never held it over your head. So why are you acting like I was the problem? Because having you around reminds me that we're not really successful. Every time I see you, I'm reminded that without your help, we'd be living in a tiny apartment with the kids in public school and David too depressed to function. And that's my fault, how? It's not your fault. But it makes me feel like such a failure as a wife and mother. I stared at her for a long moment. Wendy, do you hear yourself? You're angry at me for helping you because it makes you feel bad about needing help. You called me an embarrassment because my success highlights your struggles. You excluded me from family events because you wanted to pretend I didn't exist. And now you're here asking me to go back to being your silent financial benefactor while you treat me like I'm the problem. That's not. I don't. That's exactly what it is. You want my money but not my presence. You want my help but not the reminder that you need help. You want me to fund your lifestyle while you pretend it's David's success paying for it. Wendy started crying harder. I know it sounds terrible when you put it like that. It sounds terrible because it is terrible. Wendy, I loved helping your family. I loved knowing that Jake and Lily were getting a good education and that David was getting the help he needed. I loved being able to make a difference. But I can't continue helping people who see me as a source of shame rather than support. I don't see you as a source of shame. Yes, you do. You literally called me an embarrassment and excluded me from family events to maintain your image. You've spent 4 years taking my money while hiding my existence. That's not love, Wendy. That's using me. So what do you want? Do you want me to announce to everyone that you've been paying for everything? Do you want public credit? I want you to see me as your sister instead of your emergency ATM. I want you to value my presence in your life, not just my bank account. I want you to include me in family decisions instead of excluding me from family events. But mostly, I want you to understand that I'm a person with feelings, not just a solution to your financial problems. Wendy was quiet for several minutes, crying softly. Finally, she looked up at me. I do love you, Denise. I know I've been horrible, but I do love you. I love you too, Wendy. But love isn't enough anymore. Trust is broken. Respect is gone. You've shown me exactly how you see me, and I can't unsee it. So you're never going to help us again? I don't know. Maybe someday, if things change. But right now, I need you to figure out your own life without using me as a crutch you're ashamed of. After Wendy left, I felt emotionally exhausted but also lighter somehow. I'd finally said everything I needed to say. The next few weeks were quieter. I got occasional texts from family members trying to play mediator, but I politely declined their intervention attempts. I heard through my parents that Wendy and David had met with Jake and Lily's school about payment plans. David had found a sliding scale therapy option through a community health center. They'd started shopping at budget grocery stores and using coupons. Part of me felt guilty watching them struggle. But a larger part of me felt like they were finally dealing with reality instead of living in the fantasy my money had created. A month later, Jake called me. "Aunt Denise? I wanted to tell you something." "What's up, buddy?" "Mom and Dad sat me and Lily down and explained everything. About how you were helping us, and about what Mom said, and about why you stopped. How did you feel about that?" "Honestly? I was kind of mad at Mom at first. What she said about you was really mean. But then I realized something." "What's that?" "We were living a lie, kind of. I thought Dad was this successful guy who could afford our fancy school and everything, but really we were just surviving because of you. And that's not really fair to you, and it's not fair to us either, because we weren't learning to be responsible for our own lives." I was surprised by how mature he sounded. "We're transferring to public school next semester," Jake continued. "And you know what? I'm actually excited about it. The school we're going to has a really good robotics program, and I've met some of the kids already. They seem cool." "I'm glad you're looking at it positively, Jake. I also wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry Mom said those things about you, and I'm sorry we took your help without ever really thanking you for it. Jake, you were just a kid. You didn't know. Maybe, but I'm 14 now. I'm old enough to understand that what our family did to you was wrong. And I want you to know that I think you're amazing, not embarrassing." After I hung up, I cried a little. But they were good tears. 2 weeks ago, I got an unexpected visitor. It was Wendy again, but this time she looked different. Healthier. More present. "I'm not here to ask for money," she said immediately. "I'm here to try to repair our relationship." "Okay. I've been seeing a counselor. A cheap one," she added with a small smile, "but a good one. She's helped me understand some things about myself." "Such as?" "Such as the fact that I've been so focused on maintaining an image that I forgot to value the people who actually matter. Such as the fact that I was taking my own insecurities out on the person who was trying to help me most. And I realized that when I called you an embarrassment, I was really calling myself a failure. I was so ashamed of needing help that I started resenting the person helping me. Which is completely backward and unfair." Wendy sat down across from me. "I also realized that I never really thanked you. Not just for the money, but for caring enough to help. For 4 years, you sacrificed your own financial goals to support my family, and I never once acknowledged what that meant. I didn't do it for thanks, Wendy." "I know. Which makes it even more incredible. Denise, you literally kept my family afloat, kept my marriage together, kept my kids in a good school, and I repaid you by excluding you and calling you names." "Yes, you did. I can't take it back. But I can try to do better going forward. If you let me." "What does that look like?" "It looks like me being grateful for having an amazing sister instead of being jealous of your success. It looks like me including you in our lives because I want you there, not because I need your money. It looks like me being proud of your achievements instead of threatened by them." "Wendy, I appreciate the apology. I really do. But I need to see actions, not just words." "I understand. And I'm prepared for the fact that you might never trust me again. But I hope you'll give me a chance to prove I've learned something." "We'll see." She stood up to leave, then turned back. "One more thing. I told everyone. My friends, David's colleagues, people at church, our extended family. I told them all that you've been supporting us for 4 years and that I was an ungrateful brat about it. I made sure they all know how amazing you are and how terribly I treated you." "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. I spent so much energy hiding your help because I was ashamed. Now I want everyone to know how lucky my family is to have you in our lives, even if I didn't deserve it." After Wendy left, I sat quietly for a long time, processing everything. I wasn't ready to forgive completely, and I definitely wasn't ready to resume financial support. But for the first time in months, I felt like maybe we could rebuild something real between us. Yesterday, I got a card in the mail from Lily, Wendy's 11-year-old daughter. Inside, in her careful handwriting, it said, "Dear Aunt Denise, I'm sorry my mom was mean to you. You're not embarrassing. You're the coolest aunt ever. I hope you can forgive us someday. P.S. I like my new school. Love, Lily." I'm still not sure what the future holds for Wendy and me. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. But I'm no longer angry, and that feels like progress. As for Wendy's family, they seem to be adjusting to their new reality. David eventually found a better-paying marketing position with a company that offers good insurance benefits. The kids are thriving in public school. Wendy got a part-time job at a local nonprofit and seems more confident than she's been in years. They're living within their means for the first time in half a decade, and honestly, they seem happier for it. And me? I'm doing great. I've been using the money I was spending on Wendy's family to fund my own dreams. I'm taking art classes, traveling more, and I even started dating someone I met at a hiking group. Turns out, when you're not being called an embarrassment by your own family, you feel a lot more confident putting yourself out there. I learned something important through all of this: enabling people doesn't help them grow, and accepting mistreatment doesn't preserve relationships. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is force people to face the consequences of their choices. Wendy called me an embarrassment and excluded me from family events while I was funding her lifestyle. I said nothing in the moment, but I let my actions speak for me. I stopped being her silent benefactor and started being her honest sister. It was painful for everyone involved, but it was also necessary. I don't regret helping Wendy's family when they needed it. But I also don't regret stopping when they stopped valuing me as a person. Sometimes love means saying no, even when, especially when, it's hard. And honestly, I'm no longer embarrassed by who I am. I'm successful, generous, loyal, and strong. If Wendy couldn't see that, it was her loss, not mine. The fact that even her pastor reached out to me just proves how desperate she became when she realized what she'd thrown away. But desperation isn't the same as appreciation, and I'm not interested in being anyone's last resort. I'm hopeful that Wendy and I can rebuild our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect rather than financial dependency. But if we can't, I'll be okay. I've learned that I don't need to set myself on fire to keep other people warm, and I don't need to accept mistreatment to maintain family peace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation or public humiliation. Sometimes it's simply refusing to enable someone's disrespect of you. Sometimes it's quietly removing yourself from a dynamic that doesn't serve you. Wendy wanted to pretend I didn't exist so she could maintain her image. So I granted her wish and made myself financially invisible in her life. The irony is that my absence made my presence more valuable than it had ever been when I was quietly supporting them. I'm still her sister, and I still love her family. But I'm no longer their silent savior, and they're no longer my ungrateful beneficiaries. We're all learning to be real people with real relationships based on genuine connection rather than financial necessity. And that, surprisingly, feels like the best possible outcome for everyone involved.